Hey everyone, welcome back to the funniest podcast in the world, the StriveX Podcast, with one of the funniest co-hosts ever, Arjun Verma, and the other co-host,
Shaurya Sharma.
Today we'll be looking at a mix of coding and AI. More specifically, a program that can automate the coding process for users never seen before.
Now, this program has completely revolutionized how technology has been moving and will be moving into the future. And remember, this technology is more designed for the futuristic tech. In fact, the predicted date of when it'll reach its maximum or its peak is roughly around 2040, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So, this type of technology is distributed under GitHub, but developed by OpenAI using modules from GPT-3 and Codex. Now, this technology is using roughly around different machine learning algorithms to be able to construct code directly from scratch based off of the user's input. Now, you may not seem like this is some crazy idea, but trust me, this type of revolutionary tech to be able to develop code based off of just a simple idea without needing to know how to code is honestly unfathomable and insane how this is how technology is moving. Now, this technology is actually distributed by GitHub, as I previously said, and GitHub has actually been researching this for a while now. In fact, as I said, it was really created under OpenAI, and they've really been researching. In fact, there has been research starting from 2017, and it's been researching from around those ages too, even earlier from that. Though it's been in rough beta, it's actually starting to roll out to the public slowly, and in fact, users can use it now. Users are able to go start a 60-day free trial and be able to test out the features. Now, mind you, you can't take advantage of it thinking that you can code pretty much anything from scratch. Like, you can't just think of some mind-blowing idea and throw it in Copilot, because that's not how this works. See, Copilot actually does not focus right now on two specific ideas, rather a wide range of ideas. And basically, if it's able to figure out what you're trying to do, it'll create a rough idea of it. It's mimicking what you're saying, but not to extreme detail. But to the extent that it is at right now, it is fairly impressive of what it's even capable of doing in the way it is moving. Mind you, OpenAI and GitHub, these two companies are not going to stop here. In fact, this technology is revolutionary. People are able to put in their own ideas in their own IDE, their own favorite IDE. So let's say I'm familiar with Visual Studio Code. I can use this technology from Visual Studio Code. I do not have to go out of my way to use this technology, and that is the beauty of it. These two companies have been working to actually suit the comforts of the users, and that's what's most remarkable, because developers down the line are going to start to actually lean towards using this technology, because even if your 60-day free trial runs out, it's only $100 a year. That is very, very cheap. In fact, different streaming services and networks such as like cloud computing companies and also like streaming networks online like Netflix and YouTube Premium, those actually come for way more expensive than this subscription itself. So more developers are going to start leaning towards it, because it's going to not only expand the technology that's going on, it's going to be able to create a lot more innovations, but it's also going to help ease the stress off the developers from like deadlines that are like due tomorrow. They're able to at least use this as an assistance. And I don't want to get into developers too much, because there's a whole talk which will be coming in a couple minutes about what is this technology going to do to developers and the main reason why everyone's here to talk about. But as a rough idea of this technology, it is definitely something that we could have never thought of. And the way technology is moving, who knows what this technology is going to do to society. Now, I want to move it to Arjun.
So like Shaurya was saying, Copilot is essentially your friendly AI that will essentially help you and give you ideas on how to code whatever you are trying to code, whether it's a website, a video game, and it pretty much works with all coding languages as well, with Python, Java, SQL, and a bunch of other coding languages as well, and more are being added every single day. So this begs the question, obviously, what does this mean for the future? What does this mean for the future of these type of professions where you have to be a software engineer? What does this mean for the future as a whole when it comes to programs, websites, essentially anything that can be automated? How will that help in the automation system? Like even things around our home. This can genuinely be a big help. So basically, this is essentially solving a problem that the average user has, which is solving bigger problems, which is their motto on their website. Solving bigger problems means that the average user who doesn't know a lot of code, you don't have to be a very experienced engineer to get your hands on this stuff. You do not have to be a experienced engineer, and yet you can still attempt to create very marvelous and very fashionable websites. Because I feel like fashion shouldn't be put on a paywall, and modern looking websites shouldn't be hard to make for the average user, especially if you are trying to start a business of your own, trying to sell something, create something, just to make any type of website. Let's say for a resume, for example, you want a website that can show off what you are capable of. This can help you create a very fashionable website for your business. I feel like a good website can really show how great your company looks, and first impressions are always a must. So you should always have a good website, and Copilot essentially helps you to create a good website. And this is by the makers of OpenAI, which created DALL-E. And if you're not very familiar with what DALL-E is basically one of the biggest AI art type of style that's going on right now, where you can essentially type in what art you want to draw. Say like, I want an astronaut riding a horse or something crazy like that. DALL-E will essentially make a very realistic looking version of that picture, so realistic in fact that like it could be better than some professional artists and painters who have been in the industry for decades. So that's how crazy it is. Essentially the AI will take stuff from across the internet and will essentially compile one big picture. But we're not here to talk about DALL-E all day. I could go on all day about DALL-E, and that could be something for another podcast episode, but we are here to talk about Copilot. So is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it depends on how you look at it. This can be a good thing for the average user who really wants to make a professional program, website, whatever that may be, with not much experience, but they have a big vision. So especially in a lot of careers nowadays, a lot of people are hired as employees to make ideas for the company. And this program could genuinely help with that. A lot of people, myself included, have a lot of big visions. A lot of great visions that they physically do not have the resources and the knowledge to make and compile. And that can be really frustrating. Say if I want to make a website and I have the design layout, like say if I'm hired as a graphic designer, I can have a big design layout, but I do not have the resources to make that so professional and into a reality. Well, Copilot is here to essentially help with that as well. So how will this impact the future? Well, in theory, a lot of software engineering jobs are going to be replaced with AI. And there's no doubt about it. You still need some background experience because this AI is not a fully functioning AI that can essentially write anything on its own no matter what you tell it. Basically, this AI needs some sort of base layout before it starts building on top of what you put. So you still have to put a function, you still have to import everything that you want to import, but in theory, you can still write out / comments, and that will essentially teach the AI on how to code whatever you want to code, whether that be a program or a website. So for business, this may be extremely helpful, but for the average worker, this may be detrimental. Let me expand more on that. For the business, it can be extremely helpful because they are cutting costs with having to not hire workers and instead replacing it with AI. And sometimes AI can be smarter and do things way faster. Basically, with this can essentially help companies code something in split seconds. And the AI will suggest whatever they want to code in split seconds without having an employee taking a long time, say like a month to code this, when AI can do it in just about like a few minutes, even a few seconds. Trust me, I've had to deal with many employees that take so long to deliver on certain websites and tasks, and I'm so grateful that this AI is actually here to help me deliver my vision how I want it. This AI can essentially do everything that a worker can do, but better. But for the worker, this is detrimental. Let me tell you why. So basically, with AI replacing all of our jobs, say software engineers, for example, will have a difficult time trying to find what job will suit them best if AI is essentially replacing all their jobs. Workers will have a hard time finding jobs, and this will essentially lead to unemployment rates as well. This may be a trend throughout the following years. Essentially, with AI replacing all our jobs, like say cashiers are being replaced with AI right now, and soon software engineers, one of the highest paying jobs, is being replaced with AI. This could be very detrimental to workers. This could essentially change the whole programming industry as we know it. So it could be very detrimental to the average worker. Say if I wanted a job at some place, they will be very unlikely to hire me because this AI can do it in very split seconds. All it needs is just some detailed explanations on what you are trying to do, and the AI will essentially implement it. And this is a big breakthrough because design overall is really important. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is these smallest things can make a big difference when you are working with AI. For example, a decade ago, Google made essentially a test on their users where they can test what exactly type of shade of blue will work best for the users. This may be the smallest thing, but their design board lost it, and they tested around 200 shades of blue, and they eventually found the right shade of blue, which is a dark purplish shade of blue. So you may think, what's the big deal with this? Well, this change alone made them $200 million of extra revenue. A $200 million revenue increase. So it shows that these smallest things can make a big difference. And when you are working with AI, sometimes AI can really nitpick out the small things that maybe the average user may not catch on, and can really advance upon that and really help the users get a more smart experience and a happier experience, which can lead to revenue increase without having the need to hire more workers down the line. So in the future, like Shaurya said, a group of researchers in December 2017 were essentially theorizing how programming was going to change into fully fledged AI programming. And they theorized about 2040, but it has come sooner than ever. With the help of OpenAI, they are making major advancements in many different industries, like in the media industry, especially with DALL-E and OpenAI, which can essentially draw anything you want, and programming, which can program anything you want. We are getting there faster than ever, and this is by far one of the biggest breakthroughs, and soon it'll obviously keep advancing. So for programming in general, this can also help you out with your daily needs. Say you wanted a robot that can essentially pick things up for you and grab them for you, like a little pet, but like they can grab things for you and help you along with your daily needs. You can essentially code that with this AI, and it will essentially help you do your daily household tasks. It can make living easier. It can make chores easier. So this goes to show how big that this can become, but it also begs the question, what if this is in the wrong hands? Say you want to essentially dox somebody or get access to an API that can essentially ruin a company. Well, this can in theory be possible with the help of this programming bot. Because say a person with a messed up mind can essentially get a hold of this, and especially because it's free and there's a free trial, users are more likely to use this and test it out and see the powers and limitations that this holds. So essentially a user with a messed up mind can essentially get a hold of this and wreak havoc, because before there were limitations in place to getting a hold of this. Like before, you needed a bunch of coding experience to know how to actively dox somebody really well and how to really learn how to take over a company. That's really hard. But with this gives you all the influential knowledge you need. Will this make users more lazy or more efficient? That's a question that is really hard to answer, because more lazy meaning they don't need to do research, but more efficient because they can essentially have a big vision and make it come to life in a few minutes. So that's basically what Copilot is, and of course we'll be making articles and updating more on this as more information comes out on Copilot. So make sure you go to our StriveX Academy blogs. We'll probably be posting on this a lot, and make sure you follow our socials: Instagram StriveX Academy, Twitter at StriveX Academy. Our website is www.strivexacademy.org. I'm Arjun Verma. This is my co-host Shaurya Sharma, and this is the end of the second episode of our podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.